There is a moment in every ending that doesn't look like an ending. You are still there, still replying, still trying to make it work. But something inside you has grown tired in a way that feels different from ordinary fatigue. Breakup pain rarely begins with goodbye. It begins with a quiet shift. The first time staying feels heavier than leaving. Nothing dramatic may have happened. No explosion, no final argument, just repetition. The same confusion, the same effort, the same hope stretched thinner each time. You begin to notice small changes in yourself. How often you swallow what you want to say. How often you adjust your tone so nothing breaks. You tell yourself it's normal. That love requires patience. That difficult seasons pass. And maybe that is true. But there is a difference between difficulty and erosion. Erosion is subtle. It doesn't scream. It slowly wears you down. You wake up already tired. You measure your words. You hesitate before expressing what hurts. You are still present, but you are not the same. You don't laugh as much. You don't feel as safe. And then one day, almost quietly, the thought appears. I can't keep living like this. It doesn't feel powerful. It feels fragile. It feels like someone who still loves, but cannot continue losing themselves. Breakup pain lives in this space. Not in anger, not in blame, in recognition, in the awareness that something inside you has shifted. You may not leave immediately. You may stay longer than you expected. You may try again. You may tell yourself that if you just understand more, give more space, be more patient, something will finally soften. But the quiet truth has already appeared. And once it appears, it begins to change how you move through everything. You notice how heavy conversations feel before they even begin. How your body tightens when you hear their voice. How hope no longer lifts you the way it used to. You remember the version of the connection that once felt simple. When being together did not require so much calculation. When silence felt peaceful instead of uncertain. You hold on to those memories for a while, because they remind you that something real once existed. And letting go of that version can feel like letting go of the entire story. There is grief in that moment, because you are not only grieving a person, you are grieving the version of the future you once imagined. The conversations that will never happen, the days you quietly pictured ahead, the ordinary life that once seemed possible. Sometimes, the mind keeps returning to those images, not to torture you, but because it is slowly learning how to release them. And that takes time. Still, within that grief, there is clarity. A quiet understanding that love should not cost you your sense of self. Not slowly, not piece by piece. Love can ask for patience. It can ask for effort, but it should not ask you to disappear. You don't know what happens next. You don't know if the distance will grow, or if something unexpected will change. You only know this. You cannot keep living in something that is slowly undoing you. And that first honest thought, even if spoken only inside your own mind, is not weakness. It is the beginning of seeing clearly. The moment when you stop pretending the weight is not there. And sometimes, that quiet moment of truth is where the ending truly begins. Not with distance, not with a closed door, but with a quiet shift in how you stand inside your own life. You notice that you are no longer trying as hard to convince yourself that everything will change. You stop rehearsing explanations in your head. You stop searching for the perfect way to say things that have already been said too many times. There is a certain calm that begins to appear. Not relief, not peace, just the absence of constant effort. You begin to see how much energy it took to keep believing that things would return to what they once were. How much of yourself you placed inside that hope, and how slowly that hope has been fading. At first, it feels unfamiliar to stand without it. Hope had become a rhythm, something that quietly guided your days. Even when things were difficult, hope gave the feeling that you were still moving toward something. Without it, everything feels still. You sit with that stillness. You notice how quiet the space becomes when you stop negotiating with reality. when you stop asking it to be something else. It can feel lonely at first, because part of you is still holding the memory of how things used to feel. But another part of you begins to understand something gentle and difficult at the same time. That staying in something that slowly erases you is not loyalty. It is simply exhaustion that has not yet been named. And once you begin to see that clearly, even if nothing outside has changed yet, something inside you begins to stand a little differently. You breathe differently. You move through the day with a small distance between yourself and the weight you had been carrying. Not because the story has ended, but because you have finally allowed yourself to acknowledge that the story is no longer the one you hoped it would be. And sometimes that quiet acceptance, that first moment of honesty with yourself, is the place where real change quietly begins.